I've often described Puyo Puyo as the Street Fighter of puzzle games. It wasn't the first of its kind, but it was the game that truly revolutionized the genre, to the point where its influence can be seen in nearly every game that came after it. Also, just like Street Fighter, we don't talk about the first game. But if Puyo Puyo is Street Fighter, would that make Dr. Mario the Yi-R Kung Fu of this analogy? What even is this intro? Nobody knows what that is. Nobody knows what I'm talking about. If you leave a comment telling me you played Yi-R Kung Fu, I'm gonna call you a liar. Anyway, the first puzzle game to have a versus mode was the Game Boy version of Tetris, released in 1989. But Game Boy limitations meant that you couldn't see your opponent's board. That would change in later console installments. But the other problem I have with Tetris is that pieces come from the top, but garbage comes from the bottom. This means that there just isn't much agency when it comes to directly interacting with your opponent. You're both kind of just doing your own thing without paying any attention to what the opponent is up to. In 1989, you literally couldn't see what they were up to. It's an afterthought thrown in to sell link cables, but it's clear that Tetris wasn't really designed with multiplayer in mind. As such, I see 1990's Dr. Mario as the first versus mode that actually feels like a true versus mode. And at first glance, this game looks a lot like many puzzle games that came after it, to the point where you might wonder why I gave Puyo Puyo all the credit a minute ago. Because a year before Puyo Puyo hit the market, Dr. Mario was already asking players to build large chains that dump massive amounts of garbage on the opponent. I said, dump massive amounts of garbage on the opponent. Hang on a minute. Puyo Puyo introduced a damage formula so obscene that you could deal several thousand damage in a game where only 72 is needed to kill. And while most games that followed in its footsteps would dial those numbers back at least a little bit, being able to get a big hit of dopamine when you clobber your opponent with some form of big, flashy, dramatic ultimate attack has been a staple component of the genre ever since.
Trying to find the ideal to break.
This is clean.
Get some screen. This thing knows
Oh,
in
that was
mega
oh,
danger.
God!
How did that?
Yeah,
What? How did you
over.
just clear the screen?
But in Dr. Mario, no matter how large your chain is, the maximum amount of damage you can ever deal in a single attack is 4. 4 garbage is the hard cap. 4 tiny little pebbles is all you get. You could make a chain so big that it crashes the game and, well, if you crash the game you're not sending any garbage at all, but, anyway, you can't send more than 4. So then you might be wondering, what good is such a puny little attack? How are you going to pulverize your opponent if your attacks barely tickle? It's not even a full row, so if you're trying to target a particular column, your odds of hitting are 50-50 at best. And that's if you don't necessarily have the wrong color of garbage that might actually benefit. Hang on a minute. Turns out, garbage is quite potent in Dr. Mario, but for an entirely different reason. The opponent can't act while waiting for this very slow garbage animation, and if you keep up the pressure, that tempo loss can really add up. If you fire off back-to-back-to-back 2 chains, you can even keep your opponent stun locked for multiple consecutive garbage hits.
Yo, you wanna learn how to do a fucking infinite?
To put it another way, Puyo Puyo and all the games that were inspired by it used garbage to take space from the opponent. But Dr. Mario uses garbage to attack time. And that's fascinating to me, because it plays out in a way that's truly unlike anything else in the genre. Dr. Mario isn't a game about building up for flashy attacks. It's a game about efficiently converting your board into as many 2 chains as possible. Time management is everything. You don't want to waste time just building chains using pills instead of utilizing what's already on the board, but you also don't want to waste viruses by clearing them without chains. You don't want to leave chain setups unfinished while you wait for the perfect piece, lest they get denied by garbage. But you also don't want your chains to leave any unwanted debris behind, because then you'll lose time cleaning it up afterwards. You always need to keep your board color balanced so that any pill has a place to go no matter what RNG gives you. And you really don't want to let columns 1 or 8 get blocked off, because you'll lose a lot of time trying to fix them later. Even your own chain animations are something you need to account for. This simultaneous clear is considered a chain, and it's the most effective way to attack since it's instant. Whereas doing something like this is almost as bad as dropping garbage on yourself. But in practice, you're never going to be able to juggle all of these goals perfectly at once, so you'll have to make some hard choices about what to prioritize. Zooming out to the big picture, you want to keep your DPS output steady while always making progress on your virus count, pressuring your opponent to keep them from doing the same. Of course, you'll also have to adapt to your opponent, recognizing opportunities when it might be worth taking a risk to be more aggressive, or when it's necessary to dial back, keep it simple, and keep your board clean. The fundamentals of Dr. Mario are simple and easy to pick up. Anyone can make a 2-chain. But truly optimizing your play leads to a skill ceiling just as deep as any other competitive puzzler. This really is a playstyle that's unlike any other puzzle game out there. Dr. Mario was experimenting while the genre was still in its infancy, but once Puyo Puyo revolutionized the scene with big damage, the idea of tempo-based garbage was kinda just forgotten as the genre never looked back. Dr. Mario has always stood out to me as an intriguing historical relic of what else puzzle games could have been, a glimpse into an alternate timeline that never was. What if this style of garbage had been more influential? What might other games based on it have looked like? But when I keep talking about how Dr. Mario is unique and interesting, you might gather from my tone of voice that this is the part of the video where I'm going to segue into what I think is the game's biggest flaw. How do you actually win in a game where garbage doesn't deal enough damage to kill? Like in any other puzzle game, it is possible to win by topping out your opponent. It's possible, but with garbage being what it is, it's kind of unlikely. You have to get very lucky with garbage RNG that perfectly screws them over in the first 30 seconds of the round. That's really the only way you'll see it. Otherwise, as soon as they start digging down, they have too much space to ever die that way. So if a round doesn't end in the first 30 seconds, it's going to take an eternity to play out Dr. Mario's other win condition, erasing all viruses from your board. The problem with this really is just the fact that it takes too long. Oftentimes you will see one player get a strong enough lead that the round feels like a foregone conclusion. But it's never over until it's over, so you have to keep going and play it out until the end, no matter how long it takes. Garbage actually gets more potent in the endgame, since the lower the opponent is on their board, the longer it takes the garbage animation to reach the bottom. You can try to go down swinging with as many desperation attacks as possible, and you'll slow the game down considerably, even if you're only delaying the inevitable. But there is one way to try to make a comeback in the endgame, and that's to keep stalling until my least favorite mechanic kicks in: high gravity. I do not like gravity in a multiplayer context. I like playing against my opponent, not the controls. It doesn't feel good to lose to a misdrop. It doesn't feel good to just hope for your opponent to misdrop either. I want to win by actively outplaying my opponent, not by praying that they'll make an unforced error. But if that's the way to go for a comeback, that's what you gotta try for. I'll confess right now, I am the sort of player that, no matter how far behind I am, I will always stall things out in the hopes of a miracle. Even if it feels like a comeback is as hopeless as 1%, I'll try for it. And I think game designers have a responsibility to prevent players like me from wasting everyone's time. But I want to be clear here, I didn't make this video just to dunk on Dr. Mario for having slow endgames. This video is not, Puyo Puyo player hates Dr. Mario because he can't one-hit kill with a 12 chain. I made this video because I actually do like Dr. Mario a lot, even in spite of some nitpicks. I like the core loop, I like the early game, I like everything else besides those endgames. In revisiting the game to make this video, I've found that Dr. Mario just keeps steadily growing on me the more I play it. It may be a slightly flawed game, but a flawed game that presents unique ideas sticks with me a lot more than a game that plays it safe. If anything, I just think it's tragic that Dr. Mario never got its due, never attempted to iterate and refine its mechanics. Puyo Puyo certainly wasn't perfect on the first try either, and that's a product of its time as both of these games were out here pioneering a new genre, still trying to figure out what works. But while Puyo Puyo went on to perfect its formula in Sue, Dr. Mario didn't. The game did get sequels, but outside of alternate game modes that aren't played competitively, the core mechanics just never changed at all. The last game in the series, Miracle Cure, still has the exact same endgames as the NES original. Dr. Mario is a fun game that brings good ideas to the table, and stands out to me as a unique change of pace from the rest of the genre. I just wish they'd done more with it to try and evolve, because with a little more polish, I think this rough gem could be made to shine a lot brighter. Sadly, I don't know if we'll ever get another sequel at this rate. It's been over a decade since Miracle Cure, and the 3DS eShop is gone, as is online matchmaking. It seems like Nintendo is content to just have NES and 64 available on Nintendo Switch Online. perhaps they see no need for a new game because of that. And even if we did get another, I think Nintendo sees the game's mechanics as set in stone by this point. They never made changes before and probably won't make them now. Regardless of what else they do with it, I would still like to see a new game, just to have online matchmaking. But again, it's been over a decade with no sign of a return. But besides just wanting a new Dr. Mario, I wish we had more games like Dr. Mario. I wish this wasn't the only one of its kind. I wish that there were other games that had tried to take inspiration from its style of tempo-based garbage. I keep imagining what else could have been, what kinds of games might have existed if Dr. Mario had been more influential on the genre. Maybe there are ways for other games to put their own spins on the best ideas of Dr. Mario, while trying to sidestep its ungame woes. Obviously, I like the Street Fighter and Puyo Puyo timeline, but a part of me can't help but wonder, if history had played out differently, what the Yi Are Kung Fu and Dr. Mario timeline could have looked like. Dr. Mario is a strange game because there's nothing else like it, and I wish that there was. Thanks for watching. I've wanted to start using this channel to talk about other puzzle games for a while now. I've been sitting on an unfinished draft of the script for far longer than I care to admit. I'm just a terrible procrastinator when it comes to serious projects. But if you like this and want to see me analyze more puzzle games next, say some nice things to me in the comments because I am a normal and well-adjusted human being who definitely isn't just horribly desperate for external validation. I can't actually promise I'll finish any more projects anytime soon, but if people are interested in my yapping, I might have a few more ideas in mind. Maybe. But most importantly, if you like this video, go play Dr. Mario.